because the House Dems, they take another shot at legalizing marijuana, you guys. That's right. Democrats are taking another swing at legalizing marijuana in Pennsylvania. That's right, the Keystone State. House Representative Dan Frankel, a Democrat from Allegheny, and Rick Karasaki, Democrat from Philadelphia, are circulating a co-sponsorship memorandum for legislation they are drafting. It's the latest in a string of legislation over the past few years aiming to legalize marijuana. Frankel and Karasaki want to expunge convictions for those affected by the state's drug laws, reinvest money into communities they say have been disproportionately harmed by the war on drugs, limit marijuana with excessive THC levels, as well as prohibit predatory marketing and packaging and prevent accidental use by children, and provide business opportunities in the cannabis industry in Pennsylvania. How are you going to be providing cannabis industry opportunities if you're talking about already eliminating a majority of the products that people want to buy? But nonetheless, Karasaki, who led the House Health Subcommittee on Healthcare, chaired 5 hearings to examine the successes and failures of cannabis programs in other states in the previous legislative session. In a quote, "We've heard from public health experts, we've heard from criminal justice and social equity advocates, and we've learned directly from states across the country how to get this done safely and efficiently, gathering hundreds of millions of dollars in public revenue," said Karasaki. That he also says it's time to move forward in Pennsylvania before we fall further behind. Well, you definitely are living in the past. I mean, or, you know what I'm saying? But nonetheless, 24 other states, including nearly every state that shares a border with Pennsylvania, have already legalized adult use marijuana. And polls show that cannabis decriminalization is popular among Pennsylvanians across all political parties. Frankel, who is a majority chair of the House Health Committee, said that the criminalization of cannabis has been disastrous for the Commonwealth, particularly within communities of color. In a quote, he says, "We have a moral obligation to not only legalize, but also to work to repair the damage caused by decades of marijuana arrests," Frankel said, noting that many states' newly legal markets have struggled due to poor regulation and legal attacks from our out-of-state cannabis corporations. "Our bill will deliver a market that protects the public health, benefits our taxpayers, and uplifts those communities that were disproportionately harmed by prohibition policies." Parts of the bill are similar to what Governor Josh Shapiro included in his executive budget proposal in July, though the marijuana legalization language did not garner legislative approval. As a new revenue stream, Shapiro wants to legalize adult use marijuana, following the example of neighbors in like Ohio, New Jersey, and New York. Shapiro's administration estimates that the industry would eventually yield $250 million in additional annual revenue, and he also called for expunging records of those incarcerated for marijuana and using $5 million for restorative justice. Oh boy, sounds like there's going to be like $5 million laundered dollars going to who knows where, but I can't wait to hear what you guys all have to say about this.
I would just say, let's all remember that regulation and legalization are not the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, exactly, bro. Exactly.
I mean, that's what they're about to do. That's what they're trying, state by state. That's what keeps happening. The trick of regulation gets put on this industry, and we overregulate it rather than free it up to be actually legal.
There's definitely a lot of tricks going on in this.
Every time.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about this, Jordan? Are you going to want to jump into the Pennsylvania market if this bill is able to go through? Are you going to throw some money at it?
Yeah, you know, the Pennsylvania market is one that we have been very interested in for quite some time. We have a little bit of existing exposure currently in the portfolio and are actually actively exploring a live opportunity in Pennsylvania. You know, a lot to like about that market in terms of being earlier on that adoption curve of legalization from medical to rec. You know, as you rightly mentioned, there's still medical today. I think they're the 5th or 6th largest population in the country. So after Florida, it's really the biggest prize, if you will, left on the map. You mentioned the fact that all the states around them have at this point legalized adult use as well. So I think Shapiro's seeing the writing on the wall, right? Where why are we having all these tax revenues flow out of the state to all these other markets like Ohio, New Jersey, New York that are all popping off when we could keep that revenue here? So I think, we're very bullish on regulatory reform happening. I think that there is going to be incentive from the Republicans in the Pennsylvania Senate to slow things down, in particular with potential of Shapiro running for president in the next election cycle. I think that there is probably desire from them to
hold on a second. You think,
prevent a big win there.
You think Shapiro is going to run for president?
I mean, I don't know for sure, but I think that it's a very real possibility.
I think that's fair as a possibility. I mean, the Democrats have absolutely zero talent left. And the Shapiro should have been the vice presidential nominee, and that could have helped push Kamala over the edge. That's for sure. But instead, she rolled off a different ledge.
Exactly. Yeah. So we'll see. And my understanding, and correct me if this is wrong, but I believe that Pennsylvania has a split Congress currently.
Split Congress, meaning they have Republicans and Democrats in Congress?
Yeah, but in that each of the chambers is controlled by a different party.
Oh, okay. I got you. So you're saying the House is controlled by the Democrats and the Senate is controlled by Republicans?
Yeah,
that could be very possible. Yeah. That could be very possible. Yeah. The Commonwealth is kind of like that.
I think that's the case. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, that's why I'd say if it doesn't happen, that's probably the main reason why it wouldn't. But overall, I think that there's a very good chance that Pennsylvania gets something done over the next couple of years.
Mm-hmm. Russell, you have any thoughts on Pennsylvania, on all this green corn that all the Amish grow?
Well, I was just curious, for that market, because here in Texas, we only have hemp. And I was wondering, do they have a hemp program in place? Do they have THCA flower? Is there a recreational hemp market there with Pennsylvania? Because I'm just unfamiliar with it.
Well, I'm sure that they do. I mean, that pretty much every state has a market for it until they enact a ban, and then they have an even bigger market for it, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just was wondering how these, how these laws are, how their future legislation would affect their current, hemp policies that they have.
Well, this legislation doesn't mention anything hemp, and I haven't seen Pennsylvania coming out with any type of ban on hemp. Like we have another story later that I'm going to cover at the end of the day with another state that's trying to enact a hemp ban and whatnot. But to me, it's just stupid. It's just like in this legislation that they're proposing, they're talking about eliminating a high potency cannabis. Now, to me, that's just stupid. Like all you're doing, like people are still going to want to go and buy this shit anyway, and so all you're doing is creating a new illicit market for that to thrive and stopping actual legitimate tax revenue and commerce happening within your state.
Yeah. I mean, that's what Texas is kind of dealing with that over here too, with whatever happens, and you'll get to that story with us a little later. But yeah, I mean, it's we've got a, there's talk of the alcohol markets that are, the big influence on lobby efforts here in Texas. I'm sure this is going on in other states, but we just got to get sensible regulation in place is the main goal here, and get the states on board, or maybe the federal government needs to make a big move in a big way, and then all the states will follow, like the Farm Bill. So we'll see what kind of happens with the Farm Bill, and we're going to see, what maybe the federal legislation movement happens under the next 4 years of Trump.
We're not going to see anything change with the Farm Bill. They've already punted that thing down the road, and I don't see Trump changing anything in the Farm Bill. I mean, after all, he signed it the first time.
Next year?
No, they don't have to do anything. They
I thought it sunsets in 2025. No, so they absolutely have to do something.
They don't have to necessarily do anything. They can just pass another extension of what they've already passed. Like, that's all that they technically have to do. What they just did this time is they don't have to go and do anything.
I was under the impression that it actually sunsets and they do have to do something by the end of 2025.
That's why God made copy paste, Jesse.
Well, that's still something, right? They still have to run it through and approve it.
see what you're saying is like they have to have go. I don't think they necessarily have to do all that. I mean, they're the legislature. They just say, hey, you know what, we want to continue this, like because if that was the case, they would
pull a vote. Is my point,
because
they would have to.
Well, a lot of bills don't all of a sudden just sunset after some sort of period time. You know what I mean, Jess?
I thought that was written into the bill. I could be wrong, but that's what I thought that was.
It could be. I don't want to claim to be a farm bill expert, but I do know that Trump ain't gonna change that shit. Trump ain't changing that shit. There's a lot of speculation from a lot of people that say that he is and whatnot, but I'm not buying it. I feel like if he intended on changing it, he would have. First of all, he would already came out and said something about it, and secondly, why is he going to want to change policies that he actually created under his first term?
Well, I think the argument would be that when they created the policy back in it was 2018 when that farm bill passed, that it just kind of created this loophole for all these intoxicating hemp derivatives that no one was really expecting.
See, you call it a loophole, and I just call it innovation.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think it's innovation as well, and lawmakers are calling it a loophole, but it's absolutely innovation of the plant, Jason, and so. Credit, the industry for just being innovative and following the rules at the same time.
Very, very much so. Very much so. You have anything else you want to say on this, Jesse, before we move on?
Yeah, I just think that the farm bill seems actually closer to the truth, like you were just saying, of what the plant is. It should be less regulated. It should be treated like a commodity. It should be treated like a tomato that you can grow at your house. And that whether you juice it raw, which is non-intoxicating, or you choose to cook it or smoke it or vape it, that's up to you in your home. And that shouldn't be regulated. That's between you and God.
Stink Jr. says gray area is a better term. Whatever. Everyone can have their whatevers. But he also says loophole is insane. Loophole would be purchasing an unlicensed designer drug legally. And on that